forget to like and subscribe to Grasshopper and the Bear, our YouTube channel. What's going on, Derek?
Hey, Derek, what's up, man? Welcome to the Grasshopper and the Bear.
Well, hey, Javi, I'm so happy to be here, man. You were my first MMA coach. When you offered, I couldn't refuse.
I am the Bear.
And I'm the Grasshopper.
The Bear.
Derek, my man, welcome. We're honored to have you here today, man. Lifelong martial artist you are. Lifelong training partner to many. Combat sports enthusiast and practitioner and competitor. How you been, man?
No, I've been good, man. I mean, as you know, Jav, I've got another side to my life, so I was away for a while. And being away for a while, you get in great shape. So, you know, I shed a lot of the fat I had put on down in San Diego, and I feel great. I mean, I feel like I'd take on the world again.
Good.
Yeah, you look good,
deal,
man. You look real good in your videos. I can tell you've lost weight. And let's talk about what was your first martial art and how did you get into martial arts?
Well, if you want to get technical, my first martial art was wrestling. You know, I grew up back east, and wrestling's just a really big sport there. So I wrestled really from the first grade. They would have an intramural tournament, let us all wrestle each other at our weights up till 5th grade. Then I was on the junior high team from 6th to 8th. Then we moved to California, and I was devastated to find out that my school didn't have a wrestling team because, you know, wrestling just wasn't a factor like it was back there. But how do I say this? Contemporaneous to that, I also started training in Tang Soo Do. Originally in California when I was about 11, but then I found a school with the same federation back east. So Tang Soo Do and wrestling would definitely be my first arts.
How did you find Tang Soo Do? And explain a little bit what Tang Soo Do is, please.
Sure. Literally translated, it means China hand way. Tang meaning the Tang dynasty in China. A lot of your listeners who might not be familiar with it, it's Taekwondo. And in a pejorative, people used to call Taekwondo a sport and say Tang Soo Do was an art. You know, to me, they're the exact same thing. Taekwondo obviously is an Olympic sport now. The Korean government has a lot involved, but the bottom line is think kicks. Our kicks are really good. You know, that's how Korean arts operate, whether it's Hapkido, Taekwondo, Tang Soo Do, or any of the others that they have that I can't remember their names right now.
Derek has one of the nastiest spinning back kicks I've seen in my lifetime, almost equal or as equal to my dad's. My dad, rest in peace, also studied Tang Soo Do and Taekwondo, and that's where he learned his spinning back kick or back kick. Now, there's a way that you throw it, I know, with the heel up, and like just there's something about it. But when you threw that in sparring, Derek, it would scare me. I would make sure a lot of my sparring around you would make sure I'm not in position to get hit with that. And I was actually looking for your front foot and head pivot and your eyes to make sure you weren't going to throw it. That's how I stayed out of the way of it. It would also piss some other people off when you threw it at them because it's a devastating yet beautiful kick. And what's the secret to a good spinning back kick, which can produce a lot of knockouts if people know how to use it very well?
You know, so it's funny. I remember Tarek came to me at El Nino one day, and it was a spinning hook kick. I landed on Moses Baca, and he said, Derek, please teach me your spin kicks. And really, there's nothing to say to somebody who asks that. It is repetition. Over and over again, and breaking technique down into 3 parts. And actually, while I was in prison and I could hide behind the walls, I was doing spin back kicks in 3 parts again, breaking it down to its essence. Yeah, as far as me being dangerous, you know what it is, Jav, is I wasn't really mature enough to understand that. I thought, okay, these guys are all pro fighters, so I'm going to treat them like grown-ups, and I'm going to bash them. And really all it did was make a lot of enemies. Derek is dangerous. We don't want Derek around. Derek hurts people. And by the way, the only one I think I ever hurt, Jav, was you. And ironically, you were shooting in for a double, and I thought it was a kick, so I checked, and the knee hit your face. But other than that, I don't
fractured my orbital. And man, but that's as real as it gets, man. That's, for me, it was like this, Derek, you know, and you know this already, but I'll just say it for Kendrick and the viewers. me getting my orbital fractured by a knee in sparring, doesn't matter the situation. It's like, it's what it's like getting on a roller coaster and getting mad if you get thrown from the top. It's like, it's a dangerous, risque situation. There's no guarantee. So that's how I took it, brother. But I appreciate you saying that.
Well, right. Let me respond with two things, Hob. And number one is this. I understand that professional fighters have to have egos, right? That's obvious, because ego is what you need in there in the ring to believe you're going to bring home the victory and dominate another man. And, look, I was older than the crew, as you know, when I was up there by about 10 years. And probably that wasn't very good for their fighter egos, number one. But number two, let's talk about you, brother, because we know a lot of the same people. And what Javi does as a fighter, and I don't know if your listeners know this, Javi can master somebody by studying him. I never got over on Javi when I sparred with him. As soon as he learned my style, he dominated me. Sean Enright, another guy who I split fights with, split smokers. Javi dominated Sean Enright. Another guy fought PFL this weekend, Carl Sumanatafa, our good boy.
Oh, did he win?
No, he didn't have that. Look, he takes his fight at the last minute. So Javi is the trainer extraordinaire. He can dissect your style and make his defense so that it's impenetrable. It's incredible, man.
Wow. Impressive. Sounds impressive. Derek, what was the provocation or what encouraged you to start? Because I had an opportunity to look at your IG in terms of what you do on your IG. What encouraged you to do that?
Instagram.
Yeah.
So what happened there is through the podcast that I've been doing since I got out, I've had people contact me and tell me, look, you got a really interesting story, not just the martial arts, but the life of crime. And they showed me how to make the TikTok videos. They were very selfish. And, that's one thing I get into in both my books. Some people are so self-interested, they're not going to throw a hand to you. They're not going to help you. But this guy, for no good of his own, said, and he's in Oklahoma, he's got his own podcast, said, Derek, you've got to start doing these. And I started doing them. And to be honest with you, I love it. It gives me a chance to tell my story, to put things out there that haven't been heard, to opine on the fight game. I mean, I love doing it. I do it every morning before work. It's great.
Okay. So you have a YouTube channel for your podcast then?
No, it's a good question. So what I'm doing right now is I'm biding my time. I like coming on other people's podcasts like you're all right now. But I'm going to start probably a YouTube channel in September when I get off of house arrest, when I have a little bit more freedom.
Sure. I know the clips I've seen, man, very engaging,
They're
good
so
information.
Good, Derek. They're so engaging.
Absolutely. What
I'm glad you guys like them.
Man, you're passionate, very passionate. What drives you? What's the source of the passion?
I don't know. That's something internal, but I will tell you this. When I make a video that goes a little over the top, and sometimes I do go over the top, and it's not really my personality, but you're trying to grab something. Javi won't like it. So I measure myself by Javi. Like when I know I've gone over the top, Javi has not liked my video. And I say to myself, okay, maybe I got to rein it in a little bit and then start over and start from scratch.
Wow. Now, how long did you work with Javi? How long had you guys sparred together, spent time training together?
Javi, correct me if I'm wrong, but we sparred for the better part of a year and a half. And then Javi started training my younger brother, Jesse. And I went on to El Nino Training Center and started training there. But Javi was the sparring partner for Gil Melendez anyway. So I still continued to spar with Javi. I just wasn't training directly under him. It was great times of my life up there sparring with Jav and everybody else.
Okay, yeah, he's spoken very highly of you in terms of just your skill set and just a lot of good things. In terms of your martial arts, you started with wrestling, you moved on to Tang Sudo. What else have you trained?
So, I had a boxing phase. And I got out of it really quick because, you know, the UFC wasn't big yet. We're talking the mid 90s.
Okay.
And it was really hard to find a gym anywhere. I was in San Diego at the time. And I finally found a gym way out in Escondido, which is about an hour away. And I was diligent. I went there, I trained, but there was no place for me. I mean, first of all, the gym was 99% Latino. Number two, it was really mostly kids, and there were a couple pro fighters, and nobody was interested in really teaching. And in my martial arts book, I bring this up. And there's a parallel with jujitsu. So I call one chapter old school boxing, or a portion of one chapter, and I call a portion of another chapter original Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And the way I say that those are taught is what they do is they bring in beginners and they use them as effectively punching bags. And they're both the same. And by the way, you can do that, and some people catch on eventually, and some people become very good. But really, that's not the way you have to most effectively teach a martial art. So for me, especially in San Francisco, it was a really hard time to learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, just like boxing back then. Now, with the rise of the UFC, a lot of this has changed. When I moved down to San Diego, I met up with a bunch of guys at Blackline MMA, a different type of jiu-jitsu, and I earned my blue belt there, and I actually really started to love Brazilian jiu-jitsu because I really stopped being bad at it. Yeah. So, and then I got into kickboxing. I had a kickboxing career, but you know, that's a whole story in itself. Like I was set up. So I was a Tong Sudo stylist, and I was a national champion, and I was about to become a national champion at the black belt level. And I heard there was a Muay Thai teacher supposedly in town. I jetted over to the gym. I started training with him. 2 months later, I was fighting in Tijuana. Now, I don't need to tell you, being a Tong Sudo guy, I didn't know how to leg kick. I didn't know how to check. I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. So the guy ate me for lunch, to say nothing of the fact that the guy had 20 fights, a U.S. championship, and everything else. So, yeah, anyway.
Wow. Okay. Of all the things that you've trained and that you trained, what would you say is your favorite?
You know, listen, so it's very interesting. As I'm getting older, I love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I love the fact that I can train it. But as Javi can attest to, I love to bang. So I always want to spar, whether that's boxing or kickboxing or Muay Thai or whatever someone wants to do, or MMA. I'm up for it. And the hardest part is finding a gym where you fit into. I mean, Javi can tell you at El Nino, they kind of blackballed me because it's like, well, Derek, you're dangerous. You go ahead with Carl. Carl was a big heavyweight we just talked about that had a PFL fight on Friday. And they let me bang with Carl because, you know, I couldn't hurt Carl. Carl was Samoan, and Carl was a giant heavyweight, so he didn't care. But the rest of the guys didn't really appreciate my style like Javi did.
In terms of your influence, were there people when you were younger coming up that encouraged, motivated, and inspired you with your martial arts training? And as you got older and continue to develop, even now, are there people that inspire and motivate you in your martial arts training?
Well, Kendrick, great question. So I want to say the rise of the UFC has caused everybody to embrace combat sports. You know, when I was growing up, I was a passionate boxing fan, but good luck trying to find a place to train. We already covered that. And it was looked down on as a mug's game. I mean, unless you were really low income status, you weren't supposed to be in a boxing gym. And all that did was make the sport suffer. And I think all combat sports are now rising together. You know what? At rising tides rise all ships. And that's where we are now, where people understand the beauty, not just of martial arts and combat sports, but they understand it's a great way to stay in shape. So I am thrilled that that mentality has changed. As far as a martial artist goes, and listen, Javier conducts himself like a true martial artist. Now, I know Javi has an ego. I know Javi thinks bad things. We're all human. But Javi never shows that to anybody. You know, there was times when I would grab Javi in the gym and I'd complain about things. Javi, what about this, this, and this? And Javi would look at me and say, Derek, Don't worry about it, man. Just concentrate on yourself. It's okay. And I never could grip that. And I don't know if I ever really did because I wrote books and I threw it all out there. But I admire the fact that he's able to sit there and not worry about any of it. And that to me is the ultimate in martial arts. And listen, so I wore my Miyagi-Do shirt today, which you can't really see on the level.
Yes, I have one of those too. Yes.
Of course, they're awesome. But Javi, if I'm not mistaken, his base art was Shoin-ryu. And a lot of people don't realize that is the Okinawan style. That is Miyagi-Do. That's what they're talking about when they mean that. And Javi represents a martial artist like Mr. Miyagi, a guy who is humble, but he will kick your ass. The guys I just mentioned, including me, Sean Enright, and Carl Sumanatafa, we are bad dudes. Javi kicked all three of our butts without a problem. And I think that really says something.
Okay, most definitely. Now, like piggybacking or going back to another part of that question initially, like sounds like Javi has been an influence, a positive influence, motivator for you. When you were coming up, was there someone that kind of put you on the path?
No, I mean, listen, that martial virtue came from inside me. And I really had to work to keep it going because the life of crime was always there as well. So let me tell you an interesting story because you're on to something very funny. I show up in Oklahoma City. That's a transfer center for the feds. So when you're getting shipped around, you win appeals, whatever, you get sentenced, you're always going to go through Oklahoma. And my jacket says Gambino Family Affiliate, professional boxer, which I wasn't, but that's what it says. And it says black belt. And so the marshals looked at it. They looked at me and said, "You hang out with the Gambino crime family?" I said, "Yeah." They said, "I got a question." I said, "What is it?" He said, "What are you a black belt in?" I said, "Well, if you want to get specific, Tong Sudo." And I said, "Why are you asking?" He said, "Because most criminals do not have the patience to put in the work ethic and the time to achieve these things. Criminals want things right now. Give me now, give me now." And by the way, much of my combat sports career was thwarted that way. My kickboxing career, give it to me now. I'm ready. Let's go. I want to fight. And that was my mistake. And what can I say about it? But yeah, that's the, for Kendrick, I forget the question, but that was an interesting thing that the marshal said about martial arts and crime.
Absolutely. Talk about a kind of a affirmation, or excuse me, a confirmation that what you were doing probably isn't what you shouldn't have been doing. What you were doing was probably something you shouldn't have been doing. There was greatness for you to be doing other things. Hence one of the reasons that we're having the conversation now, which is a good thing. In terms of how you maintain yourself being a finely tuned machine with your martial arts training, tell me about your nutrition. How many times a week do you train? Do you do any weightlifting or anything in addition to complement and help it? Or, does that help with prevention of injury? Talk to me about that.
So I went into that in Warrior of the Light, the martial arts book. So, I kickboxed and I used to go 5 rounds. I fought for titles back then. But I never really understood what hard training was until I went to prison. And then with the outside world shut out, I started running. And I kept running and I kept jumping rope and I kept doing all those things because there's no other options. I mean, there's bad options, but if you want to keep yourself focused on the straight. And by the way, I want to grab a couple of the people from there. Bernard Hopkins. Bernard Hopkins went to jail for a violent crime at 18 years old. Trained and learned in there the discipline that would carry on to make him not only one of the greatest boxers of all time, but a man who fought for a world title in his 50s. Bernard Hopkins rewrote the game because he learned in prison. Let me give you another example. Nigel Benn. You guys might remember the Dark Destroyer. Excuse me.
Of course. Yep. European fighter.
Prison, but he went into the army. And he said, the army taught me what it was to be a man, what it was to train, what it was to have to do these things. And I can tell you, I didn't know until I went to prison. Now, when I trained with Javi would always say to me, "No, your conditioning is good," because my conditioning was good. I mean, I had trained in prison so hard and so long, I could go forever pretty much. So yeah, that's where I really learned, to be honest with you.
I always found this interesting, and it stood out to me with you, Derek. Your hands were always damaged, and it'd come up when we were training together or sparring or hitting pads. You'd always talk about how your hands were so damaged and injured, and you're able to still, be a part of sparring and combat sports for so long. How did you manage those broken hands all these years, and how did you break your hands?
No, so it's a good question. So my navicular bones in my wrist are broken on both of them. I broke them both in street fights and in schoolyard boxing with friends when we didn't know how to wrap wrists and whatnot. I had multiple doctors tell me, you'll never be a fighter. I'm sorry, you don't have the wrists. And what I did was ignore them. I went to a doctor about my wrists in San Francisco. In fact, Tom, we were still training together. And she looked at them on the x-ray and she said, are you in pain? And I know she wanted to prescribe those Oxycontin. And I said, no, I'm not in any pain. Don't worry about it. Of course, I take ibuprofen religiously. Yeah, no, man. Look, Jeff Fennick, the Australian 3-time world champion, had the same problems. He had hand problems. Some of us are just not structurally built to do what is in our heart. And what we'll do is, if we have the fortitude, is kick down the wall. So yeah, my hands are always damaged, brother. You remember, I didn't do heavy bag training. I didn't do mitt training because of that, because I would save it for sparring. But that was just mind over matter. I will admit to you now, the arthritis has started to kick in now that I'm almost 50. But we'll see where it goes. I don't regret a minute of the sparring I did.
Yeah, it was too fun.
Wow, talk about doing something for love. I mean, to be able to work through that kind of an injury and still do the things that you did. Wow, that's impressive and inspiring.
So let me tell you something. I went to a doctor to fix, I believe it was my right wrist. I'm checking for the scar. Yeah. So, and he was Bob Arum's best friend, this doctor, someone in Marina Del Rey. And he looked at me, and keep in mind, this is before the blow up of the UFC. I think the UFC existed because it was mid-90s, but it was basically illegal. And he said to me, do you do this for a living? I said, no. And he said, then you're out of your mind. Well, maybe he was right, but I never quit.
Sure. That's kind of a common trend sometimes for people that, don't understand. You know what I mean? They'll say you're crazy, or they'll speak about obsession in a pessimistic regard. But you look at people like yourself, you look at your Michael Jordans, anybody that's great, they do have a regard of obsession, and that's how they do those magnificent things and set those records, wind up in the history books. So
well, Kendrick, I'm so glad this isn't personal for me. I'm so glad for everybody else that everybody's caught on to combat sports now. Gyms on every corner. So now there'll never be a kid like me dying to go in there and being prevented from doing that. If you have the heart, if you have the fortitude, it is there for you. And I'm so happy about that. That means more than being a champion or anything else. And, Javi will tell you this, and this is a big part of my book. The fight game in its entirety is matching. I already talked about my first fight in Tijuana against a U.S. champion with 20 fights. That's how you fix fights. You don't need to make a backroom deal. You take a guy, a Tung Soo champion, you throw him in there in a fight he has no idea how to win, and that's it. And so, look, the fight game, I've beaten up champions in the gym. Javi's watched me beat up champions in the gym. So I wasn't a champion. You know what? That is just luck and the roll of the dice and the way things bounce. Moses Baca, a training partner in Javi and I, said to me one time, and I found it really profound. I put it in my book. He said, fighting, specifically combat sports, is all timing. It is the matching and the timing, and that's it. I'm going to give you an example. Julio Cesar Chavez. That guy cannot fight at all. I would beat that guy up all day long. But
Junior, right? Junior.
Undefeated champion, and he became WBC middleweight champion in the world. And let me go further. He was one punch from knocking out the lineal middleweight champion, Sergio Martinez, who was shot, but who cares? They took a guy who really couldn't fight, and they brought him all the way there. And that is the biggest display of matching I can give you in a good sense. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do, right? Bring out the best in a fighter. Now
you're talking about Junior, right?
Yeah, of
Cesar
course.
Chavez Jr.
Yeah, Javi, come on.
That's all right. Just making sure for the listeners.
I'm not talking about Junior, please. Everybody
Just making
knows
sure. No, just because someone might not, they're listening. They're like, "What did he say?" Yeah, I got you. I got you, D. It's kind of like it's almost reminds me of when you're making that analogy, D. Is like when someone chooses, maybe they see someone that they want to build, like a music producer or a talent agent. They want to they pick out someone to be a star, and maybe they're not the best singer or rapper, but they think they can turn them into a star. So they give them or like the UFC, they give a certain person all the push and they become a star. They give them the right matches, the right everything. It's kind of like what you mean, right? It could be anything, right?
Absolutely. And, I mean, that's literally what it is. And there's luck too, right? Gil was over there in Japan beating up some of those guys, and he had skills they didn't have. And then before you know it, let me give you an example, Hav. Remember Juan Diego Nunez?
Of course, yeah. Follow on Instagram.
So let me.
I think he broke my other orbital, but yeah, go ahead.
Well, yeah. Listen, he's giving me black eyes. He's cut my nose. Let me say this about Juan: stand up and ground. He was far tougher for me than Gilbert Melendez ever was. Yeah. But Gilbert Melendez is the household name, multiple-time world champion, got robbed of the UFC title. Juan Diego Nunez's pro MMA record is like 2-2 or something. And that just goes to show you, man, a lot of it is timing and luck. Look, I'm not taking away the mental fortitude that you need sometimes to come out on top, which Gilbert clearly had. Like Juan maybe was a little different in that way.
Derek, I've heard you mention at least twice that you've written 2 books. You got to plug them, man. Name of both these books, and also where can they be found?
I'm glad you said that.
Yes,
this one for all your martial arts fans, I don't think it's coming through. Warrior of the Light.
Okay.
You can find it on Amazon. It's Warrior of the Light, a fighter's journey through the rise of mixed martial arts. And it traces my journey back to those roots in wrestling and Tung Soo back east, all the way through, I guess before the second time I went to prison. So cover San Francisco, my time with Javi and all those guys. And if you're a martial arts enthusiast, or, if you're a young fighter and you want to be aware of the pitfalls that are in your way, I think it's a good book for that too. I mean, it talks about all the mistakes I made and all the things I fell over. Now, I know how life works. People still fall over the same things, and it will happen. But the least I can do is write a book about it. Now, I've got one other book.
Absolutely.
This one
is
Greed and Fear of the Galanis crime family.
Okay.
Now, this covers my life of crime with my family. I'm documented in prison, as I told you, as a Gambino associate. I can tell you this, and it's very interesting. My brother and father had a second case that I wasn't involved with. Javi kind of remembers the time because I quit working with them because they ripped me off. But they continued on committing frauds, and they were actually committing a fraud with Hunter Biden. And the way the feds dealt with it is they just left Hunter Biden off the case. And nobody talks about it. You can't catch it in the news anywhere. It's like an open secret. Nobody talks about it. Now, the funny thing to me is it's not political to me. This is just the facts. But even conservative media doesn't talk about it. So it's like this giant cover-up. I mean, look, my father was called at his trial with Hunter Biden's Burisma friend, Devin Archer, one of the top 10 white-collar criminals of all time. I'm a Gambino affiliate. So Hunter was in business with this very bad family, and nobody knows about it. I mean, it is what it is, I mean, and this was news before the election. I'm shocked Donald Trump wasn't screaming about it.
Wow.
Maybe there's a reason he wasn't that we don't know. It goes deep.
Well,
possibly.
Javi, you bring up a good point. So I think what they were doing at that time is they said, don't worry about this. John Durham is going to take care of all of it. Well, my brother was back east for a while meeting with John Durham. And he's just landed up back in California. So it looks like Hunter's off the hook. And maybe, just maybe, Bill Barr and the rest of them okey doke Trump. Don't worry about it, Donald. Don't worry. We're going to bring this out with this. But, who knows? Maybe they wanted to get a madman out of office. I don't know.
Could be.
Derek, but longtime friend and client, he asked me to ask you, do you know Jason Sugarman? And what do you think of him?
The feds have asked me about Jason Sugarman over and over again. I'll tell you this. So when I printed my first book in prison, they had a reporter call me from Business Week. His name was Zeke Foe, and Foe he was. He got on the phone with me. He talked a little bit. He said, "Hey, by the way, Derek, you know anything about Jason Sugarman?" And the reason is Sugarman is the type of criminal that I outline in my book, and I coined the name for them, underground financiers. They're essentially criminals in the financial world. And when I say criminals in the financial world, they're not trying to make any deal work. They're simply trying to rob people. And it's very strange to me that my book hasn't had more of an impact, because it would be nice to know that these people existed as a criminal class. But, because the rich and famous and powerful all make their money the same way, there's nothing to do about it. Now, Jason Sugarman received most of the money from that Indian bond fraud that my brother pulled off. The feds want him in the most desperate way. He had Bank of California for a while. By the way, I was in prison with a guy by the name of Jonathan Schwartz. Jonathan Schwartz was a talent agent who ripped off his clients, including, I believe, Shania Twain or Sheryl Crow. I don't know, one of the two.
Oh, damn.
And they were really angry at him. He was on the board of directors at Bank of California, which was Jason Sugarman's company, which tells you just how corrupt the whole thing was. Now, the feds can't get anything on Sugarman, and they are livid. But listen, all these guys tell on each other. So if my brother or David Bergstein or any of the other underground financiers had info on Sugarman, believe me, they would give up. I know they're party guys. I know they like to hang out and do things that other guys like to do too. So yeah, Jason. Right. Wow.
Derek, without giving it away, because I know you got a lot of it, a majority of it in your book. Talk a little bit about the circumstance and when you said you went away a couple of times, and you had affiliations with the Gambino family. Talk to us about some of that.
Sure. So I was being groomed to be part of that underground financier world. But, as you guys maybe can tell, I kind of live through my heart. I can't lie to people, and I'm not going to rip anybody off. So I didn't really fit into that world. So what my father consequently did was push me into a world where, my attributes held weight, the drug world. And he brought home a guy who was working on our finance business named Dennis Alba. And Dennis Alba had an ecstasy lab. I was in my 20s. I was kickboxing. And Dennis said, "Can you sell this?" I said, "Can I sell it?" "Of course I can sell it." And I sold ecstasy through college. I did graduate, thank God, barely. And I went back into that financial world again. I went overseas to Kosovo. I started an insurance business that I thought was legitimate, that actually was another scam, just like all my father's things. It got shut down. I came back to San Diego, and Dennis Alba said to me, "Hey, Derek, do you think the Gambinos want to buy ecstasy?" Because I grew up with the Gambinos. Both our fathers were in prison together. We had worked on a number of deals. If you guys can believe it, we actually had a meeting with both our fathers, Rosario Gambino and John Galanis, with Tommy Gambino and me, about buying the UFC way back when. Now, and let me remind you this, they didn't believe in it at all. They were humoring Derek's stupid martial arts fantasy.
They only knew. If they only knew, right?
Yeah, I guarantee you they're crying about that now. But yeah, no, I put that in both books. Look, I tried to make that happen. I remember a promoter came to me in Las Vegas. Benny Binion was a friend of mine too out there, a Binion's Horseshoe. And Benny, who was the grandson of the original Benny the Gangster, came to me and said, "Derek, I got this guy I want you to meet." And he had a tattoo on his neck. It was snaking down, and he was a crazy man. He had a gun, and he was talking about running with a smoking gun into his lawyer's office. And he said to me something, though, that was actually profound. He said, "Hey, Derek, this is like the 70s for boxing with Arum and King. If we get in now, we're going to be worth a fortune." And by the way, I believed everything the guy said. The problem was the guy himself. You know, he had that tattoo on his neck. He had a gun in his back holster. I mean, I couldn't sell the guy to anybody to get money out of it. So, you know, those are, you're always balancing those things, especially when you're walking into that. But yeah, that's the first time I went to jail. I went to prison over an ecstasy lab because I went back to New York and I asked Tommy Gambino, hey, can you sell this ecstasy? And he said to me, you know what, Derek, I'll look around for you. I got out of the restaurant. I got on the phone. I called my friend Dennis Alba, and I was on a DEA tap, and they pulled me in. So I was sitting there, and my problem was the feds wanted Gambino. So here's my choice, right? I give them Gambino, who wasn't really that involved anyway, with the conversation I had with him, or I take the time myself. Well, I took the time myself. They tried to give me 20 years. I got it down to 11. I won my appeal and eventually landed up with 9. But yeah, since that time, I haven't had much contact with them. It wasn't through them not trying. It's just I knew that their names would get me in a lot of trouble. And to this day, I have that jacket. Whenever I go back to prison, it's there. And I'll tell you something else interesting. This is kind of funny, just to let you guys know how the system works.
Okay.
They were angry at me in Taft because I was publishing about Hunter Biden and whatnot. And so SIS came to me and they said, hey, Derek, we want to let you know that, you know, if you're in a USP someday, that Gambino jacket can cause you a lot of problems. Now, translated, what does that mean? It means when we send you to USP, you can get killed like Whitey Bulger got killed in USP Hazleton. Now, that's the kind of threats the government will do to you. And look, they can get away with it, right? You can say, well, what did I say? I said that Gambino jacket. Yeah, you guys put that jacket on me. I mean, that's not my fault. I didn't say that. Yeah, anyway.
Not everything is as it seems, huh?
Often. And Hav, I would say that too, buddy.
I know. I feel like sometimes, Derek, back in the days, I was a little too, when I reflect, I feel like I was a little bit too much stuff slide. But I think a lot of that came from, I mean, I'm talking about like, you know, egos in the gym. You were there for all my sparring classes and stuff, and a lot of blood and beatdowns at K1 gym and my sparring class. But I feel like I let some stuff slide because I think sometimes I feel bad. I feel guilty. Like, man, I should have been a little more firm and maybe beat up some guys a little bit more in sparring. Not you, but some other guys in my mind. But I showed a lot of mercy at times. I felt like too much. But then I think a lot of that had to do with being trying to establish myself as like a leader in the gym and having control. And also my kids were around a lot of times and I was a young father. I think all of that made me have a little more, as you would say, understanding and more of that martial code, I guess, in some ways. I didn't ever let loose, although sometimes I wish I did. I appreciate your words about me, Derek, by the way. And I always respected you as a very tough fighter. You're always there in the trenches with us. So I always respected you. You know this. Have I told you a story, Kendrick, about the dojo storm, the kung fu fighter that came in to my sparring class, and Derek and I had all kinds of.
You told me, you tell me, but no, you never got around to it.
Okay, Derek, please tell the story from what you remember.
He was a black guy, a kung fu guy, and he was a black guy, if I remember correctly. Yes.
Yes, that's correct. And tell me what you remember.
No, you're going back. You're going back way far for this. You're gonna have to tell the story, brother. I will love to listen to it again. Tell me.
Okay. No problem. You were an integral part of the story, though. So, Kendrick, check this out. I've been wanting to tell you the story. I've been saving it actually for this. So, here's my last thing, Derek. And we appreciate your time, by the way. So, we got a phone call at K1. Jack, David Shanis, put me on the phone, the owner of K1 Gym, where I was teaching sparring and Muay Thai and boxing. And Derek was training there as well, and also sometimes teaching classes and a trainer there as well. He was a fixture there. Regular sparring partner for us. And this guy calls, Jack puts me on the phone with him. He says he wants to come down, check out the sparring class. Can he try it? He's from San Diego, Derek. And I can't remember his name, unfortunately, but I said, yeah, come down. And he said, I want to audition as a sparring partner. I want to be a sparring partner for UFC fighters, this and that. This is what he said. And I was like, okay, that sounds suspect. I was like, come down. Okay, bring your stuff, come down. You can try it. I'll meet you. So then he does come down, right? This is on the phone. He shows up, tall, strong, tall, strong looking guy, just naturally strong, kind of menacing looking, in shape strong though. And, he came in and I was like, all right, what's up, man? He's like, yeah, man, I want to spar, man. I want to spar. I was like, okay, yeah, man, we'll spar. No problem. The class is going to start soon. He's like, yeah, I want to be a sparring partner for the pro fighters. I want to get paid though. I want to get paid to spar people. And I want to spar UFC fighters. I want to be a paid sparring partner. I said, okay. I go, real quick, what's your background? Like, you professional boxer, kickboxing, Muay Thai? He's like, no, I got like, I have a black sash and the seventh heaven styles of 5 rings, Kung Fu, Phoenix Kung Fu, something of that nature. And respect to all martial arts. I'm a Kung Fu fan, as we all are. I'm a fan of all martial arts. So no disrespect to Kung Fu. I freaking love Kung Fu. I love Kung Fu movies, but that's what he said. So I'm like, okay, Kung Fu, black sash. He's not bringing up boxing or anything. Okay. I said, all right, what else do you know? Do any boxing or amateur fights, pro fights? He's like, no, but I did. And he's talking about, all this stuff that sounds kind of suspect that has to do with professional fighting or sparring. I said, okay, man, do you have gear? He's like, no, I don't have any gear. I said, you don't have any gear? I was like, okay, that sounds suspect. All right, well, we got some gear. Fill out this, you can borrow, fill out this form. And there's a little card you can pick up from the gym. It gives you 1 free class. So then he filled it out and gave it to me. And then he's like, okay, I will get you some shin guards and gear. You don't have a mouth guard or anything? He's like, no, I don't have a mouth guard. And I go, okay, well, you know what? If you have a mouth guard, let's just go body. When you spar with the guys and me, we'll just go body, which means you only hit the body, you kick the body, punch the body, no head contact. And then he looks so disappointed, stressed out, tall guy, big guy. He looks me in the eye and says, real dramatic, but Javier, I want to go all out, man. And then I said, okay, well, I got some guys here and we can all definitely go all out with you. Not a problem. Okay, if that's what you want to do, okay, fine. So I get a bunch of shin guards, headgear, gear for him. He's got no mouth guard, I don't think. He's got some 16-ounce gloves. I introduce him to the class. Class is starting. Derek's licking his chops. Some of the other people there are licking their chops. That's what happens when a new guy comes in. And it's just the way it is, especially the way he was probably carrying himself. He had an odd energy. So I'm figuring the guy's probably pretty good. And I do this, Kendrick. I almost like in a capoeira roda. That's where me and Kendrick know each other from. That's where we're friends from. We're capoeira brothers. So Brazilian dance and martial arts. And that's where we know. We've been friends for like 20 years. Kendrick's my main man. So I get in the ring with him first. So I want to see how good he is. What if he's some ringer, right? And he's some Muay Thai champion I don't know about, and I'm not going to let him jump on my guys in my class. Not that I'm a million times better than everybody, but I'd rather have everyone see what he does first. I just want to check his vibe. So most instructors, I think, would do in that situation, right? So I get in the ring with them. We bow, whatever. Bell rings. Okay, you ready? And I just felt this nervous energy about him. I'm like, why is he nervous? Look at me. I'm super polite, engaging, friendly, professional. I'm like, why is this guy so nervous? And he's intimidating looking as hell, Kendrick. You feel me? Like intimidating, bro.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like looking up to him, Kendrick. He doesn't have any fat on him, bro. He's all his gear on. Sure. He's nervous, and I'm like, why is this guy nervous? What's going down? And then so we start sparring. I put my hands up. I start moving like I do. My hands up, head movement, pivoting. The guy just staring at me. And then in the last second, he has his hands down. He didn't put his hands up yet. The round started. Then he starts, I kid you not, he starts doing this. Like in the middle of the ring with the gloves on. He's like, this motion. I'm not kidding. Do you remember this, Derek? He's okay. And then I'm like, oh, and he's sparring me like that. Okay. Yeah. So the guy, he's kind of fast. He hits hard. And I'm like, he doesn't know how to block. He's throwing like weird kicks at me. He's throwing some punches and terrible technique. But then at one point, I kind of let him throw a little bit. I'm like, okay, this is going to be easy. This guy, he's out of his element. Then I get on the ropes. My back's on the ropes. He starts teeing off on me with his hands, right? Luckily, nothing really went through because I know how to block. I have a boxing background, as Derek knows. And I've been working on the sweet science forever. So I got good defense. So he didn't hurt me. But I'm like, shoot, what the heck? So I'll fast forward the story a little bit. So that round ends. I think I did 1 or 2 rounds with him, right? And then I go, okay, you come out, rest, chill, and I'll get another guy for you in a few rounds. All right. We all take turns. We all do 2 rounds apiece. So then when it was his turn to go in again, I go, okay, who wants to go? Derek, I'm not kidding, was raising his hands like, I'll go. Derek jumps in there. Okay. And I was like, yeah, Derek, I go. On my mind, I'm like, he's in trouble now, man. I'm like, he's in trouble now. Derek want to get in on. I knew Derek was just licking his lips, as he should. Derek gets in there, starts leg kicking the hell out of the guy. And Derek's got a really solid leg kick. The guys don't know how to check kicks, leg kicks. He's eating them. And they're bending them in half. I'm not kidding. Derek's nailing them. You remember this, Derek? You're leg kicking the guy.
I do not, but it's happened to me before too.
You're leg kicking the guy, Derek, and he's going like this. A tall, big, strong dude. He's like, oh, like he don't know how to check the leg kicks. And he's trying to kick or punch, and then you're circling. You got that movement, and then I'm like, and then out of nowhere, okay, Derek hits him with one more hard leg kick and just bends him. You just hear the thwack, and everyone's like, oh snap. There's other martial arts classes going on right now. The gym is packed. There's a jiu-jitsu class going on. There's a karate class. There's all kinds of stuff going on. There's sparring classes, people in the bag, packed gym at night. And the guy takes that leg kick. He pauses. It hurt him. I could tell. Again, it's like the fourth or fifth hard one. Derek's throwing everything into it. The guy stops and goes, I'm not kidding. He gets in a karate stance, goes, Ki, and just screams at the top of his lungs, Kendrick, throughout the whole gym. And people turn around like, what the heck's going on over there? From the other side of the gym, big gym. He goes, Ki, just pause like a movie. And then I leaned in, and from outside the ring, I go, hey, calm down, bro. Calm down. It's just sparring. Relax. Please calm down. And then he kind of came out of this trance, Kendrick. And then he just kind of remembered where he was at. And then he started trying to spar again. Then Derek sets up the low kick. Derek's got beautiful flexibility, great flexibility, beautiful high kicks, great head kick, like myself. Head kicks the guy freaking in the face, full power. The guy didn't know how to block it. He was thinking low. He put everything in it. And Derek can do a full splits, Kendrick. And he did a full splits and a roundhouse kick to the guy's face. Cracked him so bad. And the guy started doing the drunk dance, you know,
oh no.
Whoa. So I go, okay, that's it. I helped him out the ring. He sat down on the edge. I was a little worried about him, but I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, kind of asked for it. This is all awkward and weird energy, right? Not the usual way it is where it's just straightforward. We're sparring each other hard and making each other bleed. This is something else. So the guy's sitting down, and I go, okay, two more people in the ring, go ahead. They start sparring. Other people start sparring. I'm trying to get everything resumed the way it was. And I'm just checking. I'm like, you all right, dog? I'm sitting next to him. And he's shivering. Like, and I've seen that shiver before because I slammed somebody in a street fight at work one time on his head out of self-defense. And I slammed this guy on his neck. I don't like talking about it. But he went in the corner and started shaking after I did that. He just stopped fighting, was shaking. The guy was doing the same thing. And I was like, man, you're all right? He's like, just shaking, bro. It was so crazy. So I was a little worried about him. Felt bad, but didn't feel bad because he asked for it. Derek kind of, was looking at Derek had my back. I could tell, I didn't need it. I appreciated Derek. And then a few rounds later, he says, I want to get back in. I'm like, oh, crap. I go, okay. Wow. So he gets back in. I put him with someone not Derek. Okay, Derek? And then, because I figure he's rocked. His energy meter is low. He's going to be chill. Trying to get through the hour here, guys, on the sparring. It's an hour-long class. So he starts sparring someone not that good, not as good as Derek. And I remember the sparring starts. The guy throws a kick, a body kick. The Kung Fu guy catches the kick with his hands, twists it, and I even know the guy knew this move, took the guy down, did like a toe hold, which is you try to break the guy's instep with your gripping it with your hands and applying pressure. And I jumped in the ring and whoa, and I grabbed his hand. I said, no grappling. I said, it's just kickboxing. And he goes, oh, okay, sorry. And they get up. And the other guy's like, what the hell? He's like, my foot. So you get the idea, guys. Derek, I hope this is coming back. This is what happened. After sparring was done, after the day was over, after the guy finally freaking left, the guy walks out. Derek standing next to me. Like someone just came in like a wrecking ball, right, Derek? And then he left. And Derek standing next to me when the guy left. We're in the middle of the gym. I go, Derek, what the hell was that, brother? He goes, Javi, that was Kung Fu. I haven't seen that in a long time.
Hey, so listen, let me give you a quick story because I've got a story in reverse. So Javi realizes my skill level and he starts taking me everywhere in the gym. And I didn't always react well because I didn't know that I was supposed to spar with everywhere. And he takes me to Fighting Fitness. And I think I knocked down Luke Stort with a spinning back kick. He had to stop. Javi had to jump in. And Hoppa Kid, who you guys interviewed last week, was there too. Now, Josh is the greatest guy, just like Javi, and a great fighter. But he's got a grappling background. So Josh made part of his fight rhythm a slip right. And so me, I've been training stand-up martial arts for so long. I said, well, I'm going to left hook this guy. I left hook Josh, and it must have hurt him bad because about about 2 weeks later, Josh showed up at K1 with Javi for my lesson with Javi. And they beat me so bad that the owner of K1 said, hey, Javi, I don't think you can allow this sparring anymore like that. You've got to make sure people don't get hurt. It was hysterical.
Wow.
I don't recall this, but I believe it. I don't recall the story, but I believe it 100%.
I think you called me later at home. You're like, are you all right? I'm like, I don't know, Hob. I feel kind of messed up.
I'm not laughing at it. It's just a crazy story, you know? Damn.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We're a bunch of psychos, Derek. We're a bunch of psychos. That's what Josh said the other week. He said we're all a bunch of psychos.
Oh
Don't I know it?
Man. But the things we do for love are the things we do for the things that we love, you know?
Yes, sir.
No regrets, I'm sure, on either of your parts, you know?
No.
Kendrick, you got any thoughts on the story I told, that long-winded Dojo Storm story? What came to your mind? I know we've talked about mental health and people who come into boxing gyms and think they can fight and they get messed up. We've seen it. I've shared videos with you. What did you think of that story? True story, man. Every detail.
Crazy. There are stories with anything, with people, with anything that somebody loves, you know, whatever it is that you're a part of, be it sports entertainment, be it combat sports, be it, you know, traditional martial arts. There's always some kind of a story. So this was crazy. It's crazy, and he, no doubt he has something going on psychologically, you know.
And the guy called me a couple of days later at the gym, Kendrick.
Oh, wow.
He called me a couple of days later.
And said what?
This is exactly what he said, you guys. He said, hey, Javier, you think I could come back for sparring again?
He wanted
and
more?
I said, yeah, you can come back. You just, you know, you gotta, I don't know if you're gonna join the gym or what, but if not, you gotta pay per class. You know, I think it's like $20 or $30 per class if you're gonna do a drop in. I was like, I said casually, I think the drop in's like $20 or $30. He goes, but do you think I could use that free card that I gave you, man? Do you still have it? That free class that I had that I gave to you? And do you still have it? I said, no, I don't have it, man. You can't use that. But just come, you know, if you want to pay for the class, just come. More than welcome. Again, me being super professional, nice. And he never came back. He never returned. I think I saw him once in the street at Subway, right? Derek next door, but I never saw him again after that. He never came back.
You know, guys, this actually, I know we're about done, but this is a subject. There were a lot of ninjas coming around to MMA gyms saying, hey, I can fight this guy or I can fight that guy. And there's videos on the internet you can find of that happening at Alliance with Dominic Cruz and Beltran and all that. Actually, it was North County Fight Club. But, you know, that's because old school martial arts were silos and people believed they were training in things that they could, you know, kill people with and whatnot. But yeah, that's a whole nother podcast. Let's do that next time.
That sounds good. I'm looking forward to tuning into more content that you put out, Derek. I mean, because the stuff that I've seen is good stuff, man. Good stuff.
I'll keep it coming, Kendrick.
I appreciate it. I plan to get both of those books, by the way, also.
Awesome.
Looking forward to reading them. Are you going to write another?
You know, what I'm doing right now, and I'm doing it on PowerPoint, as Javi can tell you, my gift is teaching children. Anywhere from the ages
so good.
3 to 12.
Excellent at it.
And whereas Javi we touched on it, the adults in me don't get along so well. It becomes somehow it's my hard sparring insults people. It hurts the fighter ego. But with the kids, you know, it's all love. And what I'm doing is I'm writing a PowerPoint on martial arts. So all the knowledge I have, I'm putting into that. So that's the writing I'm doing right now. And I hope to open a nonprofit to teach kids.
Nice. That's really good. Real good. Thanks for sharing that. Derek, how can people find you if they want to connect with you? Give me all your social media information.
Yeah, so I'll do my best. Like I said, I'm new to this. So Facebook, Go to Derek Meyer Galanis. On Instagram, I believe it's Derek Galanis. On Twitter, it is Galanis Meyer. But I'm not hiding. Anyone can find me. The Gambino is a scrap pack. You guys looking for me? You can find me anywhere I am.
Outstanding. Spell your last name again for us, Derek.
Galanis. Okay. And my first name is Derek. Okay.
Outstanding, man. Derek, it's been amazing. It's been interesting. We appreciate you, man. Definitely looking forward to doing this again sometime very soon.
I would love to. You guys, you let me know when you need somebody, and I am there.
Derek, we always
Outstanding.
finish with this. What is your words of wisdom, sir?
Yes.
Wow, you put me on the spot there, Hob. Look, I'm going to tell you guys, train martial arts. It can change your life. It changed my
Yes.
life. It was my base. That even during a world of crime, martial arts were my base. The strength and conditioning I did in prison kept me sane, and I think it can really change lives. That's why I'm so happy UFC has raised all combat sports. It's wonderful.
Good stuff. Really good. Really good.
Awesome, Derek.
Love
Man,
that. Love that.
glad to have
Thank
you,
you for
man.
sharing
And
it.
so good to see you again. And hope we can talk again soon, another time on a platform like this, and hear some more and learn some more from you, brother.
I hope so, brother. You just give me a call off. Look, man, you were my first MMA teacher. I'm there for you anytime you want.
Thanks, brother.
All right,
Thank
man.
you so much.
Pleasure
Take
meeting you,
care,
Derek.
guys.
You too. Thanks again.